What do you think about the state of journalism under our current president?
I think journalism is frequently very, very good. I think our White House correspondents and the people who are covering politics are embarrassingly bad most of the time. I think there is, here's a good example. I'm sorry, there's a fly in my apartment, in my house, and it's driving me crazy.
You're fine.
I think a very good example would be a guy who who's the ABC correspondent who works in the White House, who wrote a book called Front Row at the Trump Show. So imagine writing a book that the title, and you're talking about your own job, is Front Row at the Trump Show. Your job as a White House correspondent, which is one of the most powerful, important, accountability, holding people in power, accountable jobs you can come up with. You're going to call that the Front Row at the Trump Show? I think that's actually sad. It actually breaks my heart and I'm sure somebody talked him into that title and they thought that's what's going to sell. That's a sad thing. I would never do that. So I think we have a lot of these White House correspondents who are both trying to do their jobs, but also trying to sell the bizarre era that we're in and market it as a selling point. So we know Chris Cillizza's writing a book about President Trump's love of sports. That was announced today from what I could tell. Do you believe that that person is going to ask tough questions of the president, who he also needs a quote from for his book? I believe that right there is a conflict. So while everybody else is talking about you need to make sure that you don't have opinion on things, I think we're also seeing a lot of our White House correspondents fully recognizing that they can get access, they can get an interesting story. Look at every single person who's left the White House administration suddenly is penning a book, being interviewed, gets their 15 minutes of fame, saying something that they could have said, if they were really found it morally important while they were there, but they didn't stand up. They didn't say the thing that they're saying today. Today they do it because they're getting paid. They can make speeches, they can make money. So I think we're in a very troubling time. I think the White House Correspondents Association and the White House correspondents, many of those correspondents are pathetic. Their questions are bad. They do a poor job. They are not good at their jobs. And I think we see that day in and day out.
Wow. What would you like to see from the White House correspondent?
Well, for one thing, I think if somebody's asking a question, the next correspondent who comes in should pick up on that question. No one should ask a challenging question and then drop it to ask a completely unrelated, stupid question afterwards. They ask a lot of yes/no questions. I don't think they do a good job. And listen, I promise you, you do not have to take my word for it. Anytime there is a press conference, just go listen in. Spend the next, you'll have a couple of stars. Yamiche, I think, is fantastic. There's a handful of very good people. A lot of women are solid. And then a lot who are terrible. And so there's a handful of very solid reporters who I think do a good job. But for the most part, I think it's pretty poor. And I'm not the only one who says that. I think a lot of people say it. It used to be a very important job, but I think they today are run around by Trump and they don't really try to get answers to questions. They try to make news. And I think that's problematic.